So lastly, let's talk about replicating data. Now, when we set up this storage account, we briefly talked about the different replication options. Within the portal, we have the locally redundant storage, geo-redundant storage, and read access redundant storage. There is a thing called zone redundant storage that is accessible through PowerShell and CLI if we wanted to be sort of in between. Let's talk about what the scenarios are for locally redundant storage. So it's going to keep 3 copies of our data within the data center, basically backed up. Now, this is the cheapest storage. Microsoft is offering what's called 11 nines availability, durability. So that means that if you successfully write data to locally redundant storage, Microsoft's going to keep that data because they've got 2 additional copies. 99.9999999% of the time. That is basically a heck of a lot. Okay, so they're not going to lose your data if you successfully are able to write it. Now, the downside of having locally redundant storage is if the entire data center goes down, then you're going to not be able to get access to your data if by poor chance your data is stored in that data center. Now, to understand, when we have a region like we have US East region, I think this is stored in central, let's go back up here. This is stored in South Central US. South Central US is made up of multiple data centers. Okay, so if one single data center goes down and my data happens to be stored in it, then I'm not going to have access to that data until that data center is restored. Now, if I was able to select zone redundant storage, which I can do through PowerShell, then I would be protected against a single data center going down, because then the data would be stored in other data centers. Okay, so out of my 3 copies of data, 2 of them would still be accessible if one data center goes down. So zone redundant storage protects you against a single building in a region having problems. When you upgrade to a geo-redundant storage, now you're getting outside of your region, right? So now your data is being stored in other places of the world. Now what you're protected against, if the entire South Central region goes down, then Microsoft will be able to pull your data from another region that it stores it in. Okay, so that is an additional level of protection in terms of being able to access your data. When you upgrade to geo-redundant storage, you're getting 16 nines durability. So that's an additional 5 nines over locally redundant storage, and which is an incredible amount of durability. Basically, you would have to store, let's briefly count here, 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion. You'd have to store 100 trillion items in order to lose one. That's a lot. Okay, so the more you go from locally redundant storage up to geo-redundant storage, the higher guarantee you have that Microsoft will never lose that file, and then the protection you have against the building going down or the zone going down, the region going down, etc. By choosing the read access one, then you are able to read from that other area. So with all the other replications, Microsoft takes care of it, Azure takes care of it. You don't have access to that data specifically. You read from your storage account, and Azure takes care of the accessibility. With read access, then you can access the secondary region for this. Okay? Again, same 16 nines availability. The only additional thing you get is the ability to read. So that's the concept of replication within your storage account. There is costs associated with this. So if I was to change this from locally redundant to geo-redundant, then basically Microsoft is going to start sending my files, unfortunately I only have 2 of them, to other regions of the world, and I'm going to pay for the bandwidth of that, right? So geo-redundant storage is a little bit more expensive too. So there's additional costing implications, but it's not that much.